back to the Trinity room here, the Mosaic of Broken Dreams. And well, last time we were talking about music from other times with different roles, what the role of music was. The role of music to either restrain, traumatic emotion, or to help release, or even exaggerate emotion, to spur on feelings or to restrain it. But also, I began to really wonder about the obsolete and who's needed in our society, what's needed in our society. In fact, the role of mathematics and religion, a lot of it is just obsolete, but why do we keep doing it? It's like, why do we keep playing guitars? And we're here because there's a human element of randomness when we work with real stuff that we were made to work with. It's obsolete stuff, and yet here we are with this modern digital equipment trying to find a way for the obsolete to fit in with this new, it's a whole new world. And I went to Sears, of all places. There's a big Sears store at the Inland Center Mall in San Bernardino, one of the ones that wasn't closed recently. And it was filled with, just increasingly obsolete stuff. And I went and I bought myself a jacket that's exactly the same as when I was 10 years old. And, I guess that would be 1962, or maybe I had one even earlier, but I remember the one I got when I was 10, and we went west and I got a cowboy hat to go with a jacket and you couldn't get them all pre-washed and worn out back then. There was no pre-obsolescence. There was one jacket and it came like this, stiff as a board. And I bought one at Sears. I thought, brand new overalls. So these are the pre-washed kind. Brand new jacket. I bought a brand new, button-up grandpa shirt. It's like, and Alexander gave me this new hat that's patchwork, but it reminded me of how my father believed it. Well, two things I thought of: Sears and Kodak. We would get our pictures processed, and he would get the tires on the car, and the washing machine was a Kenmore Sears washing machine. It was just and they sold parts, so you could always fix them. And they would always be there. And of course, they were the first mail order. Sears was the Amazon, the Jeff Bezos of my father's youth, not just my youth, for over 100 years. And Kodak created photography for normal people. I had a little brownie camera. I took my little black and white pictures. I had to carefully frame my pictures. I'd stage these pictures knowing I only had 10, 12 shots to a roll with my little first camera. It was exciting though. And I could at least afford 12 black and white snapshots. Although I had to blow my money on that. And there's an old guy at our church worked at Kodak all his life, and he told me how Kodak invented digital photography. They had it all figured out years before they created the whole concept, and then said, no, we've got to buy up all the patents and suppress it, because if it gets out, we'll lose all our money on developing film. All those kids like me bringing our film in, but man, we counted on Sears and Kodak to just be like these pillars of society that would always be there. Those craftsman tools that my father bought that were guaranteed for life. I still have beat up pliers and screwdrivers that say craftsman on them. But we knew Sears was gone when they sold off craftsman tools. And, this whole show is about, the obsolete. In fact, I started recently really loving the book of Genesis. In fact, two things I went back and realized as a kid: all these Gustave Doré engravings are burned in my mind. Some of them really terrifying. They're the great cedars of Lebanon. I loved the ones that had lots of little people in them, lots of detail. And even, I saw the real ones in a museum, they were big. But these were like the book-size ones. And there were, the Bible was filled with these stories my father told me, and then later he started telling me Greek mythology. But often I would find pictures in the Doré books that were, 5, 6-year-olds aren't supposed to see that story. Oops. It's like they still had the adult stories in there. But slowly religion became like for the 10-year-old. And so did Greek mythology. It became obsolete except as this residual thing for kids. Greek mythology, I got the stories of Jason and Perseus right along with Jacob and Joseph, and it's like, the stories, certainly the stories of Abraham and Noah. I realized also a huge amount of the stories that were embedded in my mind by these ladies in the church basements with their felt boards were mostly from Genesis. All the favorite stories for kids but they're cleaned up versions, because it's like the real stories are obsolete. Something had to be suppressed in them. But it's kind of like Kodak disappeared because they suppressed the wrong thing. Instead of creating digital photography, they're gone because they tried to suppress what they understood. And so I keep going back now looking for the lost pieces. Well, at first I was surprised at how much of Greek mythology. I thought Greek mythology, they gave us the full adult version of that. No, they didn't. No, these sanitized versions. Almost every mythology, story, if you look, how did it start? Zeus had the hots for some nymph or somebody's wife, and he has an affair. It almost always starts with Zeus's infidelity and then his wife's vengeance. And that's the part they leave out for kids. It's like, now Jason has to go get the golden fleece. Now, Theseus and the Minotaur. It's like, but they never explain the bloody vengeance of these stories. It's like, because those aren't fit for children. And like I said last time, maybe we don't live in a world that's traumatic anymore. It's like, so, what's the use of all this obsolete stuff? Even mathematics now, we just now got computers to do it. And most of what we're teaching is strangely obsolete. And yet, what parts of it will we keep? What parts of it, and I find that now, as I really start, the stuff that shocks me is neurology. All kinds of stuff is coming in. And here's I guess I should start, hey, how come I know we can do a lot of these podcasts. I'll sit down and let my kid. How do I know we can do a lot of these podcasts? Because I'll never run out of these stories, not for long. And John will never run out of songs. It's like John knows so many songs, he could just make up songs and play his guitar and sing songs. And I'm trying to connect what I read and these modern things like YouTube and the obsolete things that still make sense. Like I understand now why Californians wear jackets like this, because lemon trees have terrible thorns on them. These jackets aren't warm, they're not very comfortable, but they do defend you from lemon thorns. And when you're out there picking citrus, man, there's nothing like a brand new, unworn out piece of denim. It's like, there's a reason why you don't want holes in your jacket out there. Oh man, those lemon thorns hurt. But of course, why am I growing lemons at all? I can buy lemons in the store. It's like, why do I have this obsolete? Well, we know it's the mosaic of broken dreams. It's this living obsolescence, and the one that shocked me the most, here's the myth that it's the worst lie I was told as a kid, be it some Christianity was distorted into some childish version, even Greek mythology was distorted into childish stuff, but the lie they really told me was, look David, you have a giant brain. You're way smarter than most kids. You can do math. You can memorize stuff. I'm kind of dyslexic, but man, I was great for the school plays. I could memorize Shakespeare, poetry, Robert Louis Stevenson, and given a chance, I'll memorize 3 or 4 pages of poetry overnight. And I could do math mostly from lots of memory. Just had vast amounts of extra memory. And I was told I was the future. That evolution was there. And eventually all these stupid people would become obsolete and die out, and the giant brain smart people that we live in outer space with our brains ever bigger and more gigantic. Well, some with vast memories beyond, and how did I know I was the future? Well, I could win math competitions, or I could, just win any kind of, well, it was all competitions. Of course, I mean, I remember the great shock when I was at Cornell and Neil on the road told me, there aren't any more tests to take, David. There's no more competitions. You've already won all the little math medals and pins you can ever win. Give up. Now you actually have to come up with something original. I was just the kid who memorized everything. I was in shock. I was like, And then I actually saw it. I had the chance to be with like Neil Immerman, my office mate, who really came up with original stuff, but he didn't memorize vast amounts of stuff like me. I'm the leftover guy from the days not only before the printing press, I'm from before the written word, back when it was the oral tradition. No wonder I like Genesis and Exodus. These are books of the Bible that were meant to be memorized, completely memorized. They weren't written down till after the Babylonian captivity. And Ezekiel's the first guy that starts writing. And here's the shock, the piece of neurology that shocked me, and I couldn't believe it for a long time until I just had to, is that brains are getting smaller. Human brains are dropping about 1% every 1,000 years, and it's really agriculture. They were getting bigger. And it was a shock to realize I'm the throwback. I'm the Neolithic guy. I'm the guy who's memorized where all the animals are and how to hunt them and where to go and how to read the trees and the clouds and know where the antelope and deer and horses and mammoths will be. I'm that guy with this vast topological map in my brain. I'm left over from hunter-gatherer days or nomadic tribesmen. It's like I understand that mentality. And every small group of 20, 30 people had to have a guy like me, like Google Maps. I was Google Maps for my, totally obsolete now. Well, everybody has Google Maps on their phone, even people who couldn't read a map at all. And what we've seen neurologically is once you have agriculture, you can feed people. You don't have to be that smart. In fact, the goal of an advanced society is cooperation. That's why Christianity and Buddhism and lots of religions of tranquility that got people to be less violent, cooperate more, and just sing the song and shut up. You don't have to know what it means. Just do the ritual with other people. There is peace in numbers and security, even food security. I mean, we have the greatest food security. Freedom from violence, freedom from starvation, freedom from disease. We've achieved the greatest kind of security ever in the history of humans. And the big-brained people, well, if there's a place for us, it's the cloud, I always say in my other talk, humans act out what the machines will do. Now the machines do remember all of our photographs, all of our essays. Pretty soon everything these young people ever do, every essay they write, even when they're in high school, will be up there in the cloud somewhere. Unerasable. A total and complete. It's the vision of God we always have, that God knows everything. He knows every move we ever made, every thought, eventually every thought we ever had, and we don't have to remember it. It's a freedom to let go and live in a safe, secure society. I mean, the norms of yesteryear, like we said, are trauma. Even the 1600s, man, those people were living in a world so full of blood and guts and violence. They were clinging to the cross. I mean, I often, when I'm out there in my garden, I take out my little cedar cross, that I carved from the wood of my cedar tree out there. And I literally cling to it when, we just had 5 days of rain. It was the most glorious thing. I went out and stood in the rain, thanking Jesus for all this rain. Although it almost got threatening, it rained so much. But, my food doesn't depend on that. If all the trees died, I wouldn't starve. It's not like God deliver us from starvation. It's not like those old, Puritans where, like war and famine were right in their face. And they needed these old hymns were written to stave off despair. And yet I find I need them more and more. I want to know the real, I should at least mention, I think, here's the Hieronymus Bosch of our day. Our Crumb did an illustrated Genesis, and this has all the adult stuff. He even says right on there, the first book of the Bible graphically depicted, nothing left out. all 50 chapters. I mean, literally every line. So if it says he knew her, well, then it shows these people having sex in some biblical way. Also, it shows they're animals, herding, and it's just like it shows circumcision. The first, the story they didn't tell us when Abraham first circumcises himself and his son Ishmael. Isaac isn't even born yet. Oh, perfectly. And this is not a comic. R. Crumb was famous for satiric comic books years ago. This is not a parody. This is a very careful, accurate depiction of everything in the Bible. I mean, he did use Charlton Heston as his picture of God. But, it's like he stole things from Cecil B. DeMille. But it's incredible. I mean, every boring line and all those begats, he puts them in like, they look like playing cards. Oh, and so-and-so begat so-and-so. They're all drawn in like playing cards in here. But this is not for children. Or Noah, like, hey, my song, I sang back in, I don't know, or one of the early episodes, I sang my Green Mountaintops, Green. That was Noah having a PTSD breakdown at the end. Oh, that's in there. Noah dances naked and he's drunk. Well, he's useless. He's obsolete. The ark's already saved everybody. It's over. What do it's like, just shut up, old man. You did your ark. It's like, it reminds me of all those guys that won World War II. They used to sit around when I was young. We won WW2. What do you kids do? Nothing. That's what you do. Nothing. But, I can imagine Noah. It's like, I built the goddamn ark. If I want to get drunk and dance naked, I'll get drunk and dance. It's like he's useless. And he's an embarrassment to his family. His grandchildren are like, oh no, his son's covering him up. He stirs up fights at every family reunion because he's already done his thing. What else good does Noah do after the ark? Nothing, really. Sit around and and it says he likes to grow grapes, right? First thing off the ark, he's like, I'm planting grapevines. Oh man, I need some wine. That's in my song too. It's like, that's right out. I was just trying to put in, I wrote a song, by the way, if you just sing the first 5 verses, it's okay for kids. And it ends with, the ark lands and they're saved. But I like the part where Noah, it's a perfect description of PTSD. The Genesis has lots of detail that we know is way more accurate than we thought. It's actually, modern evolution and neurology back up a lot of Genesis. So I'm going to keep telling some stories from Genesis. I keep dreaming of the hillbilly aspect of Genesis too. These guys are like, they're the don't fence me in generation. And the stories in there are psychologically extremely active. That's why they live on. That's the part that isn't obsolete. So, I don't know, we need John to sing us, I don't know, one of your songs, John, or one of those old Bible songs you know a million of. You've sung in everything from Pentecostal churches to Presbyterian churches to coffee house circuits, to the Tucson Folk Festival. I mean, as any of your songs fit in. You've written songs that they feel like old songs. Sometimes some of them they're not fake old songs. We need some of this stuff lives on, just like King David had citrons in the night to drive away the nightmares. And the banjo sounds like some biblical instrument. Like I make John play that banjo. And I wear my stupid thing from Sears Roebuck because I'm terrified. Oh no, there won't be Sears. I better buy 2 of them. It's like, it's going to go away. And there'll only be those goofy ones already worn out with holes in them that cost hundreds of dollars. It's true. It's true. I went to the fancy mall and where they used to lock up leather jackets because they were so expensive. They had the big bolt with the cable locking up. What was locked up? The jackets like this that some artiste had carefully worn out with some buzzsaw and sandpaper. The worn out ones with all the shreds and stuff and bleach and stuff, those were like $400 and they had to be chained up so people wouldn't steal them. You can still buy one of these for sale now for $60 at Sears Roebuck. But you have to go out in the lemon trees. Well, of course, everybody knows when you really work, only one knee wears out. Anybody who's got 2 holes in their knees did not do work. Because when you garden, you go down and eventually you wear a hole in this knee and this knee's perfect. That's how it happens in the real world. Anyway, I live for my obsolete things. You know, I pray to Jesus even if he's out of date. You know, it's like it's, you know, I don't know, there he is. You know, he's always there. We let Mikey shoot him last time with Nerf rockets, but Jesus doesn't care if he gets shot with Nerf rockets.
Cheer up, my brother, run in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, run in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and cheer up, my brother, run in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by.
Give us another song, John. Come on. Who knows? The death of Sears Roebuck. How did it happen? First paragraph. It's like first world down there. Everybody buying up stuff so cheap it's ridiculous.
and pray to you, and gather words and lines to sway you. I'm longing for a time distant and sublime, when I'll cast my fears away. And when I face the trials that come and watch my triumphs rise and fade, remind me of the time distant and sublime, when I'll cast my shame away. And then I'll lift my voice to sing your praise and thank you, Lord my God, for all my days. When standing in that place, when I'll see your face, then I'll cast my fears away.
Yeah. Well, another shard in the Mosaic of Broken Dreams. And we'll see you next time.